Welcome to Critical Video 1, Defining Critical Thinking. Critical thinking requires us to ask questions about everything that we see, that we hear, that we read, and that we experience. As such, criticality and critical thinking is a very extensive process that interacts with most elements of study. Experience may seem like the odd one out, but if you're in a subject that requires you to reflect on your practice, this is also an area in which we need to turn to critical thinking. When trying to think critically, it is really important not to be too negative. Some students confuse the idea of being critical with criticism and negativity, but this is not necessarily the case in academic writing and academic level study. Sometimes you will identify negatives, but this is only part of any argument. This is because academic work does not just focus on right or wrong. In fact, very little academic work focuses on such binaries. It tends to focus on points of interpretation. These are not necessarily good and bad, but different forms of interpretation with different arguments behind them. So this means that when you are thinking critically, you need to incorporate different perspectives. Think about opposite sides of the argument or different ways of looking at things. We also need to avoid binary thinking. Binary thinking involves focusing just on positives and negatives, arguments for, arguments against, yes, no, good or bad. Sometimes these states actually overlap, and there's also multiple positions that might lead you down a path of neither. While positive and negative or pros and cons is a useful way to start critical thinking, you should make sure you do not limit your writing and thinking to just these two states. Critical writing is incredibly important. After all, this is often the way in which most students are assessed. However, you also need to acknowledge that critical writing is only the evidence of your critical thinking. Therefore, to improve your grades, most of the time you need to invest more time in the critical thinking aspect of your work. The more you think, and the more you consider different positions around any argument you're engaging with, the better your writing will become. It's often useful to consider the difference between description and criticality. When we're being descriptive, we tend to answer questions like what, when, who, and where. If we compare this to critical questions like why, how, what if, so what, and what next, you can begin to see the different writing that these would lead to. Descriptive writing informs of what you have read, done, or seen. This is often expressed in work through quotations, paraphrasing, and description. Critical writing, on the other hand, tends to focus on how you have transformed what you have read, seen, or done into an argument. In doing so, you are ultimately persuading the reader of your position. These are ideas that are unpicked in some of the later videos. But essentially, if you are writing persuasively, you are being critical. This is because, to effectively persuade, you must be providing evidence that is convincing to link to whatever points you're trying to make. If you want to check your own writing, this is a key question that you can consider. Am I stating a position and facts, or am I providing evidence to persuade people of my position? So, if we're being critical, it means we are identifying and critically evaluating a line of reasoning or an argument in a text. While this sounds complicated, it just means that when we're reading, we're trying to find what the author is saying and what their argument is. Do all of the points they're making join up? We need to question the surface appearances and check for hidden assumptions or agendas. Sometimes this isn't just about what is written, but about what is left out. The paper you're reading now, is anything missing from it? Are there any details that have been obscured? What about the author? Is there anything about them that may suggest a hidden agenda? This largely depends on the type of source you're looking at, and this is picked up in the next video. You need to identify and evaluate the evidence according to valid criteria. While this sounds really vague, it's because valid criteria does vary from discipline to discipline. For example, in nursing and medicine, a good study is often based around a randomised control trial. This is simply not the case with education, for example. As such, you need to reflect on what good research or a good study or a good argument looks like in your field when you're reading and evaluating the arguments of others. Finally, you need to decide whether the evidence does or does not support the writer's conclusion. This is a vital step because at the end of the day, very good evidence and good argument might not link to a writer's conclusion. Some writers tend to try and draw bigger and more expansive conclusions from their studies than perhaps what the study supports. So this is a key question we can turn to when we're being critical. I'm going to summarise with a definition of being critical from Williams. Williams defines being critical as being thoughtful, asking questions, and not automatically accepting everything that you read or are told. This very much links to the element of critical thinking. Now, when it comes to our own work, it means analysing sources and developing our own reasoned and persuasive arguments. This is an excellent definition to start off with, and is something that we will revisit through the subsequent videos. One of the reasons you might be here is based on your feedback. If you're getting feedback like your account is too descriptive, you need to question findings in more detail, you need to be more critical, you need to show more analysis in your work, or the dreaded so what. Often this feedback means you are not being critical enough, and the following videos will really help. We'll also look at structuring an argument, which will definitely help if you're not connecting your ideas as fully as you need to. This video is the first in a series. This table is an interpretation of the level criteria dependent on your level of study. This is an indication of which videos you may find useful. As you can see from the table, level 6, which is the final year of an undergraduate, and level 7, which is master's level, should find all of these videos useful. For level 5 students, which is the second year of a degree, you should find the first 5 videos useful, and for level 4 students, which is the first year of studying an undergraduate degree, you should find the first 3 videos useful. This is not a hard and set rule, and it may be that you will find videos at different levels also useful, and you may find your lecturer will recommend them as well. However, this table should be a useful starting point.